Hey everyone, I know it's spring, but it's never too early to think about harvest. Gearinghoff is head of the class no matter the crop, making premium harvesting heads for all your harvesting needs. Check them out at gearinghoff.com.
Yeah, I'd say there's more benefit to the business that we're farming because we are farmers trying to serve farmers. So trying to identify, okay, well, what is really valuable to us? What are those things? How can we bring that value, to the table that, we would want to see? And dealing with customers, you have to be about serving your customers, not yourself. If you don't genuinely care, it's not going to work out.
Ladies and gentlemen, farmers, ranchers, and distinguished guests, thank you for listening to the Farm4Profit podcast, where we discuss the latest ideas, methods, trends, and techniques available to help your farm achieve higher levels of farm profitability. The Farm4Profit podcast is co-hosted by Tanner Winterhoff, the Iowa Bankerman, and David Whitaker, the Iowa Land Guy, where in tandem they will share their ideas and advice from industry experts. Thank you again for listening to the Farm4Profit podcast. Remember, if you aren't farming for profit, you won't be farming for long. And now, here's Tanner and David.
And listeners, welcome back to the Farm4Profit podcast. This is Tanner Winterhoff.
This is Corey Hillebo.
And this is David Whitaker.
We are here, a lovely blustery day. Corey, I don't feel like we have had any spring days without the wind blowing a lot.
I think maybe 2 days is about it. But hopefully by the time that this comes out, things have turned around. I know I've said that a couple times, but I feel like this time it's going to be real.
We could dry out all that ground.
Well, the ground's dry. It's just, we get rain and then 50-mile-an-hour wind and a little bit of sun and then, but yeah. So, I don't know. At least we're not up in North Dakota or Minnesota where they got snow.
Well, you're right.
Right.
So,
Right.
happy about that.
Absolutely. Listeners, if you have topic or guest suggestions, please send those to farm4profitllc@gmail.com or find us all over social media. We appreciate you sharing our podcast with your friends and family and helping us grow. As we said, and as Garth Brooks said, we're not here without you. So, Dave, who is our listener review brought to you by today?
It is brought to you by a good partner, BW Fusion, and we have a special deal. When you sign up for 500 acres, you get to use that 401 microbial team with the meltdown. When you mention Farm4Profit, that's the number 4, you will get 1 free field of their BW 365 program.
And Corey, you told me the other day that you put out or are in the process of putting out part of the prescription that they wrote for you.
Yep. Started that process. Didn't get the fertilizer till late in the day of the one day that we had to actually spread it. But yeah, it's on farm now and we're ready to go. So the review today, though, I will try that last name. Scott Setnicker.
That works.
Think that's right?
I think so.
I think that's right.
I think so.
That's a good podcast. I really enjoyed it. I stumbled on it a while back from Facebook. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, and listeners, don't forget, you can leave us a voicemail with whatever crazy voicemail you want to leave. That's 515-207-9640. But we have a jam-packed episode planned for you today, so we're going to breeze right over this What's Working in Ag segment that we typically do and give you a whole show of what's working in ag. Right, Corey?
Absolutely, and I think part of the show is going to be what's working in ag anyway, right? It's just melted into one.
Absolutely. So we are blessed to have Aaron Yaggie here. Aaron grew up on the agricultural part of a family farm in Minnesota. He graduated from NDSU with his ag economics degree. He's been putting that to work. Aaron is the current president of Red River Ag and Hefty Seed Holly, along with the managing partner of Thief River Falls location. Not only does he stay busy with his own business, but he proudly serves as the vice chairman of the board for his local bank. So a man near and dear to my heart via banking industry. Welcome to the podcast, Aaron.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
So high level, obviously picked apart your LinkedIn resume. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about who Aaron Yaggie is?
I guess I'm an average farm kid that has gotten lucky, gotten some some great opportunities to work with some great people, and I think made the most of them in terms of in terms of the career side of things.
Like I said, you grew up on a family farm, correct? What did those dynamics look like when you were growing up, and what do they look like now?
Yeah, so my family originally comes from the Breckenridge, Minnesota area. My great grandpa moved up there in the 30s and had 4 sons that farmed, and my dad was the oldest grandson. So my great grandpa saw some land opportunity further northeast. My dad was the oldest grandson, so he kind of got shoved up here when he was 18, and no one else ever followed. So so now it's me and my dad and my brother farming, and then we still work with our family back in Breckenridge too, on for their farm. They're at about 17,000 acres down there, and we're just under 11,000. So,
Wow, that's a lot to.
Does that make him a BTO?
I think that's a BTO. By definition, I don't know. I mean, that's a lot of. I mean, sounds like a lot of acres, but obviously it's still a family farm. You still got a lot of your brothers and uncles and all that going on. It's all family still, right?
Yep, all family. We've got a lot of great employees. We've been really lucky with guys that we've hired onto our farm, and that's really helped support a lot of growth and sustainability for that end, because it is a lot of acres to cover.
So you went to NDSU, huh?
Yeah, I've had a lot of great experiences in Iowa. I don't know, my brother played football, so came down there. We I don't know if you guys remember, but last time NDSU matched up to Iowa State in Iowa, we came away with the W.
Yep. I was going to say NDSU has a really strong team. I went to college in Fargo as well. So not at NDSU, went through Bismarck State, but so you were Breckenridge, Minnesota, and then you came over to the dark side to North Dakota. Do you live on the North Dakota side now, or are you on the Minnesota side?
I'm on the Minnesota side. I live in Thief River Falls, so that's like 40 miles east of Grand Forks.
So you're way up north country.
Way up north, closer to Winnipeg than Minneapolis.
Oh wow! When you were growing up, were you very involved in the family farm?
Yeah, I mean, I think my dad was really good about making sure that we were able to do all the activities, all the sports, everything that that he wasn't able to do for growing up. But at the flip side, when there wasn't anything to do, there was work, Yeah,
that's every farm kid knows that. If you wanted to go play football, that's great, but you still had to pitch in when you could every fall. But you obviously had a little bit of an ag bug in you, because you took off, you went to NDSU, got an economics degree, which isn't necessarily an ag degree, but it's used pretty close. Were your intentions with that degree to come back to the farm, or did you have other aspirations?
I always wanted to be involved with the farm, but my true passion is business. As it's developed, there were a lot of times where I really, especially after I graduated, I really wanted to kind of go off and make my own way, and I was interviewing with some places in investment banking. That's what I thought I wanted to do in terms of next step out of college. But during that time was during the oil boom, and we lost a lot of key guys with the insane amount of money they were paying out west. My dad stuff, they never asked me to come back, but I kind of felt like there was a time when really needed me. It was then.
So, Aaron, you went to college, you came back, you want to be a businessman, kind of had ties to farming, and now you farm a whole host of acres with the family farm. There is some growth there somewhere in the middle, and maybe when you were young, was the farm that big, or how did you go from X to Y?
A quarter at a time. My dad has done a really good job about of number one, he never goes to land auctions. He never wants to go and bid against on for a neighbor or on different stuff. It's all been, whoever was retiring, they wanted to sell, came to him, offered him, if he wanted to buy the land. And it really had been relatively slow growth, a quarter, half section a year, a little bit kind of at a time. In that regard, since he started coming up here, and I think it was 78 when he was 18.
Corey, that happens to you all the time, doesn't it? People just say, "Oh, I'm retiring. I think you're a good young guy.
Quarter a year.
Just take over." Is that how that works?
No, I wish it doesn't happen down here, but I can't fathom, because even if he could, I mean, obviously he could, his dad could do that. I can't fathom, because you still have to have so much faith and vision in the future of agriculture to like put yourself out there like that. So
Right, and it's the law of small changes. I mean, yes, to some, a quarter is not a small change, but in the grand scheme of things for him, it was, this might hurt for a little bit, but had faith in the vision that he had for his own farm to allow that small change to turn into having a large impact. And now there's a substantial, solid land base that your family gets to participate in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, my dad has always been, someone that, someone needs help, someone needs, whatever. He always goes out of his way, and that's been part of the reason, and also is just a very, very good farmer and runs a really tight operation. And I think some people, like that. I mean, and another thing too is that by working with his brothers, two of my uncles that were farming in Breckenridge, they were able to always work together. We were always sharing equipment, moving stuff back and forth. Certain years have a bad crop up north. Well, there's a better one down south, and gaining, some of those efficiencies by being able to work together so well, I think really paid off.
So that is definitely diversification. And I wanted to point that out. I'm glad you laid it out the way you did for our listeners. Is we breezed right over it. It's not just you and your brother and your dad. It's three families, because there's three brothers that are farming not necessarily together, but in cooperation with each other. And I think we're about time for us to step in what you actually do with your day-to-day. So you've got two uncles and a dad and a brother that you would call farmers, correct?
Yep, and two cousins. Both uncles both have one son that are back farming too.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so Corey, it's each dad, three dads, three sons are farming. But we're talking to Aaron today. And would you call yourself a farmer?
I'm starting to be a lot less and less of a farmer, unfortunately, with how much everything's grown on the business side and having the different locations. I'm unfortunately getting to do less and less farming all the time.
So what is the business? Give us the overview of what that looks like right now.
So we basically started out with just a small elevator, that basically did, some local, my dad, our family grain, stuff like that. And then in 17, we opened a hefty agronomy site in Thief River Falls, and that really, really did well, and got another opportunity to open another one on Fern Holly. And during those times too, we bought out two different co-ops that had gone out of business. We didn't really expect it to take off as much, because like I said, everything, busy enough on stuff with the farm. But I guess I've always kind of been a driver and going, and And we've just been really fortunate because there's been just a lot of great people that have, given us the opportunity to work with them.
We're here at our field day.
We've had a great number of farmers out here. It's been an awful lot of fun. We've been demoing many different machines from the Salford Independent Series and a couple of other ones.
We did test strips. We put signs up. We let the guys walk through it, kick the soil, dig in it, see what they liked. And then we also did live demos where the guys drove by in some side-by-sides, and also a couple guys jumped in the cabs and watched them work from the cab.
Salford's unique. We make several traditional pieces of tillage equipment, cultivators, plows, that sort of thing. In the early 2000s, they started making what has evolved into the Independent Series, which is a set of vertical tillage tools that come in a variety of aggressive levels and perform a different variety of tasks. They're at different spacings, designed for spring work, fall work, and it seems everyone that buys one finds new things that it can do.
It's different. It's something that our main manufacturers aren't carrying. We do make an independent vertical tillage. A lot of the other ones on the line that make vertical tillage don't have the style we have, so that stands out to a lot of guys. Make sure you do your research. Come to a field day. We like to do them. We have fun. We also do have demo units, so get a hold of your local sales guy and maybe we can get a demo out to your farm.
Listeners, demo days are a great way to see the vast machinery lineup that Salford has to offer. Now that the season is off, get out into the field today or book a demo yourself. Head over to Salford.com/Farm4Profit to contact your local dealer now. See what there is available for demo or any upcoming field days and events happening near you. But as a bonus, using Farm4Profit, you as listeners of our podcast get an exclusive prize. So be sure to enter to win at Salfordgroup.com/Farm4Profit. Register to make sure you can snag the epic Orion Custom Salford Cooler prize package. Look cool, keep your beverages cool, all while you are looking your best in the field with Salford Tillage. That site again is Salfordgroup.com/Farm4Profit. Good luck.
So I got a question for you. I also am kind of a driver and kind of push. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, especially when you go up against your family, or not against, I use the word against, or with, when you're going with your family. How did you come from school and have adaptability to where they just trusted you to make those decisions?
Oh, I didn't. It did not start for that way at all. My dad, when we came home, it was, we had to, learn everything. And if we wanted responsibility or trust or to take something over, we had to go above and beyond to prove ourselves before he was going to turn, something over to it. I mean, I'm really glad he did it the way he did, and I learned those lessons. But now sometimes I like to tell him that, okay, Dad, I already learned that lesson. So you can go back to trusting me on for that. When I kind of came back, I say it like this. I am good at certain things, but like my brother and my dad are, true farmers where they have competency in pretty much everything, and that just wasn't me. So for me, it was, okay, what way can I bring the most value back to my family, into the operation, because I would refuse to be the guy to just ride on the coattails for what's going on. And so for me, the way that I bring the most value back onto the farm was getting onto the business side and kind of pushing that along. And my brother, he just likes farming. With all the growth and stuff, it was kind of frustrating, but he was just very supportive and supporting me on, trying to do these things, figuring it out. And, was just very supportive in going through all that extra work. And we have a really great relationship and for working together. And it's been very fortunate for how much it's taken off.
So is he older or younger?
He's older. He's 3 years older than me.
So do you feel like he takes care of you? Do you feel like there's some part of an older brother mentality, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I feel like we take care of each other now, but I know he was very supportive because it was a lot more of a natural fit when he came back home versus me, for finding on my place. I mean,
right. So we've got a lot of listeners that are in that situation that you went through. They started off, went to college, and are either on their way back or battling through it right now. So what are some things that went well that helped make your transition back into the farm business side of things successful? And if there aren't any obvious ones, what are some things that didn't go well?
I'd say it all comes back to, I mean, I had the mindset that, hey, I was going to find a way. I was going to keep working at it. I knew it just wasn't going to happen. And, it kind of brings me back to when I was back in college, when I used to come home in the summers and help my dad. And it's like, okay, let's go clean out the next bin now. And I was like, geez, Dad, don't you have anything else for me to do? That's all I would do. And he goes, well, what can you do? And it was a really sobering moment because he was right. What could I do? And so that was really, really big motivation to, okay, I've got to learn for some skills. And so I guess for me, I spent a lot of time reading, studying what are other successful people doing, successful businesses doing, what can you take away, and just getting better. I'd say another really key piece was my wife, who's a therapist, which I get free sessions nightly. So
we're getting what you pay for there.
I should not have laughed that hard, but it makes sense. We'll have to tap into that before we finish talking today. We're gonna have to tap a little bit into that. But Corey, is that the way your dad handled you coming back to the farm?
A little bit similar. I mean, we kind of have a similar situation where I would say that I am probably like your older brother, where I was a lot more involved. Or I guess I'm a more rounded farmer. I'm a jack of all trades, but a master of none. I mean,
can we snip that? I'm a rounded farmer and make a meme.
I am round. I mean, I am round, but I feel like I can do. I know enough, a little bit about everything that I can get my way through it. And then my brother, who's much younger than I am, he's not that way, but he's very business oriented and a lot smarter in ways. And so we just brought him back to the farm, and just trying to navigate that, like. Sometimes I get frustrated because it's like, well, you should just know this because I knew that when I was like 12, but he didn't. We're just wired differently, but he brings back a much better business orientation and mindset. And I'm like, that's good. You sit in on the computer and do the bills and I'll get everything else done.
So do you ever take crap like your brother says, I work harder than you do because I'm actually doing it and you're just the business?
No, we have a really, really good, I mean, part of the reason that makes us like such good partners is that we know that each other is doing, what's best on for the overall, and we're never questioning, on for different things. I mean, there's times in, the winter where I'm staying late on for doing whatever, and then there's other times in harvest where, he's, still out combining edible beans till 1 a.m. and whatnot. And so I guess we both just have really deep trust where we know that each other's looking out for each other's best interests.
Well, guys, I think that when we're talking about growth mentality and we're talking adaptability, when we hear about his dad and two other brothers, and they're in different parts of the world, one north, one south, and they still work as a team. They could, if you're geographically spread, they're geographically spread, right?
No, we're together. It's my uncles and my cousins are south, so we're all together.
But they're
my
still,
dad, my brother, and me.
They're still all getting along, and it's nobody's better than the other. So when we talk adaptability, I don't know if you just call it get along ability, and then it's the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That Aaron and his brother get along as well.
Yeah, That's great. And we were both fighting over who was going to ask the next question, and we both have the same thought because, Aaron, there's a lot of partnerships that are formed and fail.
I mean, look at this podcast. We've been trying for 2 years. No, just kidding.
And we are an anomaly, just like you and your brother, and the way your family is working together. This podcast is very rare. There are a lot of podcasts that have started, came, and went because it didn't work or people couldn't get along anymore, whichever it is. So I'm curious because there's probably listeners right now that feel like their partnership is not equal or it's not fair. What in your mind has put you past comparing hours to hours of work or value and contribution? How are you and your brother able to get past it's not fair?
It really just has to come down to, I mean, what do you value? What is keeping the scorecard? You know, are we trying to be as profitable as possible, as good as stewards, as good on farmers, or are we trying to measure on for hours? And I mean, I can say at every year that's been going forward, I feel like I've been taken on for a lot more. But then again, there's only so many hours in the day. So the whole scorecard of, okay, well, are we, you know, that it's kind of an old school type process, but I think that's where, I mean, the communication just has to be there. And I know we're very lucky because we didn't know anything, you know, different than, okay, working with family, getting along, you know, it was kind of set in place, you know, going forward. And we just, you know, just having really open communication and trying to make sure that, okay, well, if I'm struggling on for something, need some help, or they're struggling on, you know, it's all about finding solutions. There is a solution on for every problem. But I think where a lot of people get to the point where the communication is so broken down, or because that they're family, they don't stay in bounds. You take chip shots from coming in from left or right that don't even have anything to do with, you know, for what they're talking about. And, you know, at that point, you pretty much need you know, someone independent to kind of referee on for that, to kind of keep that in line. But, you know, for us, there's so much stuff. There's so much more that we can do together. There's so much stuff that he does that I need, and for vice versa, that just makes us better. And to me, it's an easy part. Plus, I mean, being my brother, you know, you want to get along with your family.
That is a great perspective.
I was thinking the whole time I was ready to ask the question, how much do the wives get involved in this, or the spouses? It could be male or female. So spouses, like when I think of like my family and I'm like, hey, we're going to go on family vacation, my wife always has a say in the background of, well, your sister did this or your brother did this. So I wonder, when we talk farming, how many family dynamics, if you listeners out there, how often does your spouse chip in? Make sure you comment and tell us, you know, how much that is. But so then you talked about communication, and then I was like, oh, new question, boom, got to go that direction. And do you have a family? Do you have a meeting? How do you communicate this? How should our listeners emulate what you're doing? Are you weekly Monday.com or?
We're constantly communicating. Honestly, we don't have that many sit down meetings. It's really hard to get everyone wrangled into the same spot at the same time. So we're just kind of constantly communicating, you know, all the time. I think I probably talk to them both, you know, 3, 4, 5 times a day, and maybe sometimes don't even see them. And so we have a pretty good understanding of where we're at, or where we're, you know, doing on for different things. And with the wives, yeah, our wives are, you know, very good friends, get along well, very good about helping each other out. Okay, someone's working or something comes up where someone goes and gets the kids, and then, you know, our kids are even, you know, best friends. And there's not many better feelings than that. It really makes it easy.
That's good. That's always good to have the whole family on board and, you know, moving in the same direction and enjoying each other, because that doesn't always happen. So listeners, we're here with Aaron Yaggie, and he has Red River Ag and Hefty Seed. I want to get back to that and talk more about the business. And we talked a little bit about it earlier. I had a question. Something else came up. Did you buy the first location? You said you bought a couple locations out, or did you start from scratch on your first location?
Started from scratch. Okay. The things that we bought on from the co-op was there was a co-op next to our original elevator, which was a gas station and a small fertilizer shed. And we'd never really wanted to be in the gas station business, but we decided to keep it open for the community.
Yeah. Was
and
this
then-
was this something that you guys planned on, or was this built out of necessity?
I mean, we really wanted the land, and it kind of fit in. I'm really glad that it had happened because getting into the fertilizer business has been fantastic. And I came from the point where I had never even been in a fertilizer shed before. I'd never done done fertilizer for our farm. I was usually seeding, let alone run a fertilizer shed. And the learning curve was pretty steep, but on the flip side, I didn't have any old school bad habits on, well, this is just what we do. We just fill up at X,
Yep.
at this time of the year, and then we just set our price and go and kind of change it over to more like with grain, where, well, the price is based off the market. And here is, okay, someone's taking something direct. Well, that's a lot cheaper than needing storage or blending and different things. And that kind of took off into a life of its own. But the two co-ops were going out of business. The other one was down where our other seed and chemical location in Holly was going out of business. They had a newer truck elevator facility, and we thought that, hey, it'd be more work, but there's some synergies there, and it's it was a lot in a short amount of time now. So now we've got 3 locations and running around in between different spots. It ends up taking more time, but we've just been very fortunate for those opportunities.
So it always fascinates me how somebody can go in and take a business that's going out of business, that is failing, because somebody else wasn't running it profitably, and make it go. So to start this off, was it your idea to go into the chemical fertilizer co-op business, or was this a family decision?
Well, it ended up being, the family had to support it, but I'd say I was the main driver for wanting to do it. And what originally came out, well, this should have synergy with the farm. Hey, at worst, it should be a better thing for the farm, kind of came into a life of its own. Or I guess I had different ideas in terms of driving and growing and everything along those lines.
Give us a picture of the timeline. When was this that you guys, started with your first location?
So my dad had this elevator, built it in for 82. But then when me and my brother came home, we kind of started from scratch for the commercial elevator in 14. And then in 17, we opened the first seed and chemical for agronomy location. And we had kind of been looking around for, okay, who do we want to be working with? Hefty, there's a lot of great companies out there, but those guys are just incredible to work with. For as many stores as Hefty's got, doing 5 radio shows a week, 1 TV show, they'll always make time for you with everything they got going on. If I really need to talk to them, they'll always make time. They genuinely care about people, and they kind of took a chance on us and from that aspect, and builds a ton of loyalty, because now that we're doing well, there's other companies are, hey, would you ever be interested in switching for something up? And and everyone's got a price, but
Sure,
the price would be so much more than I'm worth. It just isn't even, so it's a no. So I think we've been very, very fortunate on being able to work with Hefty.
So you mentioned that you had observed some synergies, or thought there would be some synergies between the family farm and growing the elevator fertilizer business. what synergies, what are the benefits to the farming operation for having and owning an elevator?
You end up needing storage anyways. So there's on for one. I mean, if you can, I mean, the elevator stuff has changed a lot in terms of just being able to do it. You know, if you're not a shuttle facility, it makes things a lot more difficult. So we've tried to focus in on maybe some niche markets, some different things like that. But it's if someone's listening to this thinking that, okay, just having an elevator is going to be on for a good thing, no, not on for the right mindset. And as things go forward, I mean, even for insurance, for all these different things, the cost of doing business, keeps going up. So you really have to be able to provide that value for customers.
So I was leading into a two-part question. So there might be less benefits to the farm for owning and operating an elevator, but I would assume there's more benefits to being a high-quality, top-class elevator or co-op because your family is farming or actively farming.
Yeah, I'd say there's more benefit to the business that we're farming because we are farmers trying to serve farmers. So trying to identify, okay, well, what is really valuable to us? What are those things? How can we bring that value, to the table that, we would want to see? And dealing with customers, you have to be about serving your customers, not yourself. If you don't genuinely care, it's not going to work out. I would say that's something that, I genuinely care about people, whether it's, I had a guy who was, looking for fruit trees for his, for his greenhouse and couldn't find any. And I happened to know someone who, was in that industry on for something, and then it doesn't end up in me getting on for a sale. But when people know that you genuinely care about them, they want to do business with you because they trust you.
Yeah, and your mission is?
We're here to buy and sell grain, chemical, seed, and other specialty ag products. Our mission is to help farmers earn more money.
Earn more money.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, I can see the synergies. I can see you guys back in 2014 looking at these and we could probably get, your cheaper chemical prices to help you out on storage, help you out here and there, and get fertilizer sourced. I bet you're not looking for Roundup this year for your own farm type of stuff. But
not anymore.
Not anymore. But it
was bleak there for a little bit.
But I can see what you're talking about because that stuff is all clear, right? But then you sit there and you're talking about insurance and employees and people to manage these employees in different locations, and it sounds like a lot to me. And I think that's probably where you come into play with your business and your skills there. So hats off to you there. What kind of products are you guys dealing with there? Everything from chemicals, everything, grain, what? Yep. Do you guys is it just corn and soybeans? You got wheat?
Corn, soybeans, wheat, barley, and then we do edible beans too. Those are the main ones. But then in terms of suppliers, we've got access, I think, I've got 1,400 different products, and then can always go. At the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to, it's like, okay, well, if someone specifically wants this thing, we're going to find this thing, for them one way or the other.
So how is the setup? Are you guys set up like a normal co-op? Like, do you have members and dividends and all that? It's all private?
Private business, yeah.
I think in a way that's probably better that way, because I feel like the co-ops down here that are supposed to be, giving out dividends and all that are running like that and possibly not even acting in the members' favor
the
anymore.
Best interest of the members.
So,
I put it back like this. I'm not a big fan of the co-op model. I understand where it came from, where, before we had communication and the ability to go where, just needed place in town to be able to go and pick up whatever. But the thing I go back to, if the co-op model is on the right model, then why don't we have farm co-ops?
You got it. Yeah, I don't think you have a bad point. So what would you say is your competitive advantage?
I think that our competitive advantage is that we're very focused on, first and foremost, taking care of the customers we already have. We're always interested in working with new people, but I think it's very tempting at times for people to take for granted someone's buying from us. Well, we're just going to expect them to buy from us, where, no, that's not how it works. So I think that that we're very focused on how can we take care of our current customers. And like I said, genuinely caring about your customers means trying to find out and trying to understand what do they want and how can we provide that, because there's tons of different value propositions. And the economist in me came out, it's like, well, it's all about money. Well, no, it's not all about, best price on for dollar. There's so many more, factors of it. I mean, the trust factor we're running into now, where people have said, well, this place said we were getting this product and hey, they didn't come through. Now what do we do? And we really work hard to make sure that we're coming through for our customers' needs and, keeping them first versus just trying to go and get sales and whatnot.
So we talked a lot here about things that you guys might have done right strategically and relationship wise, and talked about the new business. What have you done wrong? A lot of times what's working is, hey, don't do that, because when we tried that, it doesn't work.
We quickly outgrew our processes. We did not have, we had the old school farmer mentality of, I can do this, I can handle this, I can work more, I can take this on. But with how much we grew, we quickly outgrew those processes. And then, losing any one employee can really affect on the day-to-day operations. We really didn't build up our processes to handle all the growth, and that was my fault. And that's something that I'm very, very focused in on. Okay, developing processes so we know, okay, how do we handle on for this situation? And I think it's a lot easier to do in the business versus like the farm. I mean, the farm, there's so much variety and everything like that, where I do think it's harder to do, on for that end. But in terms on for the business side, there's just a lot of things that you can, kind of streamline in a sense and be able to take on for more people and onboarding and things like that. So that was something that I did poorly at the start.
When we think about that, with like corporate America, corporate business, probably economics, something you took in school, in college there that you were trained. But when you bring it back, you probably don't think about that with farming. You think, all right, corn and beans or soybean, whatever it is. And you go right back to maybe old school mentality because we've always done it that way. But, we asked for a year, what do the most successful farmers have in common? I think one of the main answers was they ran it like a business. They didn't run it like a farm. I think it was the number one answer, if I remember back. Tanner'd have the data on that. But, you guys are doing that. And to think that way and make some of your key mindset to adapt to make that successful decision might be what's working. Maybe that's the takeaway.
Well, when you said mindset, just reminded me that we really glazed over the fact, Aaron, that your wife, say it again, so your wife is involved in the mental health field, or she's a counselor?
She's a therapist, yeah.
Okay, so with that, obviously you are probably sitting firsthand to the benefits of making sure that we focus on our mental health. So can you tell us a little bit about the observations that you've made? Obviously not as a mental health professional, but like you said, you've got a nightly counselor, but what things could maybe our listeners be paying attention to that might make their everyday a little easier?
Well, I always joke with her that she's trained me so well that we're more like colleagues now. But but I mean, she's just a complete saint. I mean, not only for putting up with me, but she really has helped make me my best version of me in terms of that. Yeah, I remember coming back on right away, and there were things I was unhappy with. I was unhappy with, on for myself. Okay, why wasn't I figuring this out? This isn't clicking. Why, why can't I fix the combine after I ran a rock through it? I mean, there's a lot of things, and I'd get angry, and it took a while to realize it's that, when you get angry, number one, you're not happy. So that just sucks for you off the start, but you're also not productive. You're not thinking straight. You're not thinking, you don't have the right mindset. So you're not productive anyways. So it's so important to, make sure that, okay, you are getting perspective. I mean, or the markets have keep driving up, but, if it falls down, from here for a free fall, it's, keeping in perspective that okay, this is just the volatility of the markets. It's what are we going to do now, instead of, well, I'm going to sit and complain and be pissed off about on for something. Then you're so focused on looking back where you're missing the next opportunity, the next thing. So I'd like to say that's where I feel like I've done well, is building a relationship, being able to connect with farmers. And that comes from, I think, being vulnerable. Like I'm okay saying that I'm not good at different things. I'm very, comfortable in, who I am. But I think that it's really hard for a lot of farmers to be vulnerable and to talk, well, hey, this is something I'm really facing. And then in return, if people are going to be vulnerable to you, you can't throw that back in their face, or else they're just going to shut down and they're not going to connect. And that's something that, I really try to preach. I believe that people only be as honest with you as you let them be. And that goes for my staff. So if someone has an idea for something we should do something different, something better, I want them to bring that forward. And I mean, because chances are they might be right. And I don't really care if it's my idea or not. I care about the outcome.
So I heard a lot in that segment. And I'm going to try and break it down into 3 pieces. So one's compassion. And that's the last piece. Is it's fine to razz people and joke with them. But if you feel like they're trying to trust you with something or open up to you, let's show compassion. The first one was perspective. Yep, I ran a rock into the feeder house. This is going to ruin a lot of things. But, the perspective is, okay, I can fix this. We know we can fix this. I didn't start a field on fire. I didn't ruin an entire machine. It sucks. Mistakes suck. Accidents usually suck. But there's a way to frame it perspective-wise that it could have been worse. And then I'm really struggling to remember my middle one because I didn't write it down, but it had to do with, your vulnerability. Had to do with the knowledge of allowing yourself to realize that you don't know it all.
Yeah, that's hard to admit sometimes, especially as a farmer, and telling people that I'm not good at that, and knowing that, and being confident in it. And I mean, that's a skill more than a vulnerability, I think.
But wouldn't you say that you right now could think of a community member that you farm with that is that way, that doesn't do something because they know they aren't good with it, and you kind of almost, jealous is the wrong word, but you kind of sit there and you go, oh, that's kind of nice. I could see where that would be nice to not have to do that because I'm not good at it either.
Yeah, like some people don't spray. Some people, hire this out or that or whatever. It's like sometimes, just taking a little bit off your plate and maybe having the time to focus on yourself or your family or other parts of your business makes a lot of sense.
That's why I get fat. Because I don't cook very well, so I just eat out all the time. So I just keep eating out and tell you what, it's good.
It is good.
Side note.
Oh, man.
Well, Aaron, as we get close to the end of this, is there anything else that you'd like to add from the Yaggie family or from Red River Ag?
No, unless you guys can think of anything.
Well,
I'd like to just know a little bit like, okay, the footprint. I mean, you obviously have your certain locations, but I know talking to you before this show, you mentioned that you have worked with farmers that are a lot further away from your locations than I would have ever thought.
Yeah, I think we have active customers on for sales in 5 or 6 states. I mean, in terms of whether that's for fertilizer, some of the logistics things, but in today's world, it's very easy to, find these solutions. I mean, the logistics is the easy part. We'll put on for that. And we've ran into a lot of situations where some people like that, okay, we're not in the community, we're not kind of in their business, so it's easier for them to talk to us about, what they want to do versus some of that. I mean, there's been just a lot of great people I've met even from Twitter that, hey, well, can you do this? And hadn't even met them before. And I just really enjoy that. I love connecting with new people and trying to see if there's anything we can bring onto value.
Social media is best. Mm-hmm. So I got one more question for you. Who's the guy behind you?
I was actually. You and I are on the same wavelength.
That's my great grandpa. So
listeners, there's a picture of Leo Yaggie behind him,
black and white,
that we've been watching in his office there. So explain a little bit about your grandfather.
He was really an innovator. I mean, him and I can't remember I think it was like 2 or 3 other guys. They bought the charter for Mindak beet growers to try to replicate what American Crystal, to bring the prosperity from sugar beets to the Breckenridge Wahpeton area, and something that it's still going today. I mean, he was just always looking for ways to do different things bigger and better, and kind of really set the foundation and for what's continuing to happen, with our families working together, growing, all those different things.
And maybe that's the other most what do most successful farmers have in common? Remember that one comment? I think it came out of Canada.
Grandpa
bought a bunch of farm ground, and so that made us do really good. No, very good. I was thinking with all those acres, you're going to have to fight the girls off with a stick because they all want to marry a farmer, but it sounds like you're all married. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that was ever a problem. I think everyone's far enough removed from the farm these days. I don't know.
As I get ready to summarize here, we ask every one of our guests the same question. Not every one of our questionnaires the same guest. The same question. It's a reflective question about what do you know now that would have helped you if you'd have known it sooner. So be thinking about that. We've got Aaron Yaggie here. We are hanging out with him, learning about his path from growing up on a farm as a child, going off, getting an economics degree, coming back and trying to find his spot in the family operation, which evolved into managing their own privately owned co-op, fertilizer, seed, and grain shuttling business. He was able to utilize perspective and support from his family to help grow that business and continue to have harmony amongst 2 uncles, 2 cousins, a dad, and a brother that don't necessarily benefit as much from the elevator side as he, running the elevator, benefits from the perspective of having a family that farms. Even though a lot of people come back to the farm and are overwhelmed and trying to find their place to fit in, Aaron encouraged us to learn, build out our skills, find ways that you can add value. Think not necessarily outside the box, that's too cliche, but give yourself a role that you might be able to jump into that allows you to play a bigger role in the success of your family farm or family business. Lastly, we rolled into how the mentality and mindset on making sure that your mental health really is a focus, just like your physical health is, to really help keep yourself straight and down the path of being able to work optimally every single day. Because the more productive that you are, the more clear that your mind is, the better off you're going to be with the decisions that you make. How'd I do, Corey?
Perfect.
As always. Oh,
Sometimes. Sometimes.
So, Aaron, what do you think? What is something that you know now that you wish you would have known sooner?
Well, I guess one thing I want to hit on is the importance of people. I feel like I don't deserve all the credit for the growth that we hadn't gotten into. You know how many key people behind the scenes there really are, and I think for me it comes back to just investing in other people, believing in other people. There's a fit for that everyone has talents. I mean, I go back to, I mean, if people are usually shocked when they ask me this, but if you were to ask me who's your right hand person, who's your key person, it's her name's Nikki. She runs our Thief River location, and she came in. She started as an intern, and now she's running on for the site. Now she's managing on for a lot of things, and she's only 22. And so I fortunately having the clarity to that, okay, this person's worth, for investing in, and now they're thriving when, right away kind of felt like, okay, we could do all this stuff on for ourselves. We didn't need people. And that's been something that's really changed.
So, Aaron, what I'm hearing from you is you might have hired somebody sooner that you didn't give an opportunity to. Is that what I'm hearing there? Is if you had to do something different that you know now that you didn't know before, is maybe hire key people sooner and or give more people credit?
Yeah, getting great people in earlier versus just trying to say, okay, well, we can handle this. We only need X amount of people. I mean, there's just no shortage for good people, but yeah.
Perfect.
I needed you as a boss when I was 22. I mean, I'm serious. Like, a lot of the big companies that you work for, they would rather you quit and not put the time into training you, and then you go off to the competitor, and if you do good, then they hire you back away from them, instead of actually training and keeping a good employee. Like I commend you for that.
All right, Corey, what is our challenge?
My challenge is to go out and find Aaron somewhere and Red River Ag on the internet, because it's actually kind of hard. So Aaron, it actually leads to a question. Where can we find you? How can we get a hold of you? If I'm from Iowa or Missouri or something and I want to work with you, how do I do that?
Well, you can find me, for social media, I use Twitter and LinkedIn, just my name, Aaron Yaggie. And our website would be redriveragllc.com.
All right. And listeners, we had the pleasure of speaking with him, so I hope you guys check him out. It's been fun to learn about how a family-owned business evolves when it's actually not that old. So thank you, Aaron, for spending time with us. Listeners, also don't forget to visit salfordgroup.com/farm4profit. You go there to enter in to win an opportunity at a prize for the epic Orion Custom Cooler prize package, which is only for Farm4Profit listeners. You do have to take an extra step. You have to go to salfordgroup.com/farm4profit. That's the only way to get entered in. But how cool would you look out in the field with your Busch Light?
But you can't do that.
Why can't you do that?
Oh, I don't know.
Any kind of beer. But you got to go salfordgroup.com/farm4profit. If you got any ideas for us, send them our way. Otherwise, listeners, we appreciate you. Thank you again.
And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. And don't forget, go back, listen to a few more shows, and share it with your friends. And please like, rate, review. Like I said, share. We also have voicemails now, 515-207-9640. Little secret, you can actually text that as well.
That's right. That's right. Yes, and I get all of those.
Those
So
go
if
to Alda
you
Tanner, so please bother him.
want to bother me, that's how you do it. Aaron, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Thank you guys. And I just want to say that, if anyone out there is, in the situation where they're struggling to figure out, moving on for forward, always feel free to reach out. I'd be glad to help any way possible or refer to any other resources that, I may know. So
Awesome.
it does get better. There is always hope.
No, I appreciate that. And listeners, until next time, have a good one.
Remember, if you aren't farming for profit, you won't be farming for long.